This is The Second Studio, hosted by the Architecture and Design Office fame. My name is David Lee. I'm a partner at the office and, of course, a host of the show. And today my guest is Dan Green, the CEO and founder of Blackbriar Development, a construction company based in Los Angeles, specializing in high-end residential work and also commercial. And this recording is a little bit different. Dan and I both basically interviewed each other, and in his bit we learned more about his business. We talk about also some of the common challenges that clients face in these projects and ways to get around those. Sponsors.
Available with Revit version 2023.1 onward, Autodesk Insight is a next-generation carbon analysis tool that can help you make the leap to low-carbon design. With only a few clicks, Insight lets you analyze, understand, and track the embodied and operational carbon impact of your design choices. You can then visualize opportunities for energy efficiency and carbon mitigation with its flexible dashboards, helping you make more sustainable and informed decisions. Check out the Insight link in our show notes to find out more. This episode of The Second Studio is brought to you by BQE Core, the all-in-one firm management software built for architects. Designed by architects for architects, Core helps you track time effortlessly, manage projects seamlessly, and get paid faster so you can focus on design, not spreadsheets. With powerful automation and real-time insights, it's everything you need to run a smarter, more profitable firm. See how BQE Core can transform your practice by clicking the link in our show notes.
This is The Second Studio with myself and Dan. Here we go.
All right, what is up, guys? Dan Green here for another episode of High End Fellas. And I'm here with my man, David Lee from Fame Architects. Dave, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, man.
And yeah, man, give everybody a quick introduction to you and your firm and what you do.
Yeah, so my name is David. I'm a partner at Fame Architecture and Interior Design. So we're a full architecture and interior design practice based in mostly Los Angeles, but we do work in the Bay Area super often. So we're back and forth, sometimes out of state. And our specialty is custom modern houses.
Mm-hmm.
These days of all different types of price points, partly because of the fires.
Yeah.
That. And so that's a little bit about our office. It's also co-led by my partner, Marina, who's an architect and interior designer, and also my wife. So we have like everything wrapped up into one bubble. And I'm also, as you know, co-host of a podcast called The Second Studio Design and Architecture Show.
Oh, cool.
Which has been really fun to do. So
Nice.
yeah, those are the two main things currently.
What is your podcast about? Like what people want to check you out? Like what would they find that your podcast is generally about?
Yeah, it's really, really broad. So it's really anything architecture and design related. So we have, 460 or 70 episodes.
Whoa, that's a lot.
Yeah, so we've been going for...
Beating me there
by a little bit. Well, we've been going now, I think, for over 8 years. So it's kind of funny because the show is now regarded as kind of like one of the OG architecture podcasts in the space.
Really?
Yeah. And so... but it's really, really diverse, which I think is a really cool thing, but also, frankly, sort of a detriment to like niching, right? That's the idea you want to kind of pursue to like grow audience. So, but we cover like the conceptual aspects of architecture and design, like the academic aspects of it, teaching architecture, what it means to have a practice. We also have, podcasts that are specific for like clients who know nothing about this industry and want to know what does it take to build a house or design a house.
So you have clients on the show, or you just...
We haven't done that yet. I'd love to. So someday I think we will.
Maybe they reflect on their experience with you,
I think
or
that
something
would be super
like that,
interesting.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like especially a cool house that you built, or something that was like,
or
maybe a bad one, like maybe one that was like really like didn't go well, and like dissect like what happened, because they don't all go there. They don't all go perfect.
That's probably a closer reflection to how projects go than just talking about the great stuff.
So tell us what happened, like bad, but don't talk too badly about me. Just
what are the problems and what did we do to fix them for?
Yes, that's what we should concentrate on. Yeah,
I mean, so it's pretty diverse, right? So like the way I describe it is our audience for the show is people aspiring to become architects. Like sometimes we have high school kids listening. We have clients listening. We have other architects and contractors and designers listening.
People from all kinds.
So it's like a pretty wide set of information, which we like because that's our life. Right?
Yeah.
That's reflective of everything that we do.
Yeah.
But, between us as podcasters, that's also like not really what you would do if you're creating it from scratch. You'd say, okay, let's niche and like determine what our audience is and stick with that. But we just we do it for us, right?
Yeah.
We prefer to have that like wide set of conversation,
Yeah.
and it keeps it interesting.
How do you find, I know I'm getting to the podcast a little bit, but I guess because I'm interested in it.
Yeah.
How do you find the right types of guests for your podcast? And like, how do you choose them like to be suitable for like, what you want to get into?
Yeah,
You
it's
know?
a super, super good question. So, like we have architects, designers, contractors,
All kinds of different
all
people.
kinds of different people. And
Not
we have-
necessarily just from your firm, from anywhere, right? They can
Oh,
come
totally.
here.
100%. Yeah. So, and in the past too, we've actually had like a street artists on, fashion designer, like people, expediters, like really getting further into like just the creative space.
Yeah.
I think like half of our guests are architects, people that we vibe with. And the criteria, honestly, it's like, do I think they're interesting?
Right.
Or do
They
I
got
think
something
their
to
work,
say.
something to
right?
say, or is their work like really, really good
Cool,
and I admire
yeah.
their work?
A bit different.
Yeah. But,
Yeah.
as you probably know from doing your own show, the quality of work does not necessarily reflect the quality of guest from a speaking perspective on the show. So,
Yeah.
that's been interesting too, to get into the mindset of people. We realize, oh, this person does really, really interesting work, but they aren't very good at actually explaining their process or explaining how they think. They just kind of do it, and they kind of fumble through the language.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. And I think it's interesting because it helps me sort of explain what our podcast is about, right? And is there's some similarities there, but we're still defining that, right?
I love that.
Like this idea of what it's about, like the idea of high-end fellas was like, for me, it was like, let's dive into craftsmanship. And what that really means in terms of high end, right? Like, so what creates a high end feel, environment, service, right?
Service.
It's not just the end product, but it's the service and the ride.
Yeah.
And who's doing that in interesting different ways, right? Like, for example, the other day we had a production designer on the show.
Oh, cool.
Right?
Okay.
That was just, and he did like,
for like movies and stuff?
Movies and
Right.
like mainly TV shows. Like he did like The Voice and a bunch of other sets and productions that, these huge productions and setups and stuff like that. That are always delivered on a very tight schedule and with very tight deadlines, and you can't be late, right? Like you have to be on time.
Yeah.
And it was interesting because I learned a lot about their processes and how they're working with the vendors and contractors that are delivering these spaces. And, we don't do a lot in that world of entertainment, but we could.
Yeah.
And he learned some things from our process and we learned some things from his process. And they're two different worlds, really.
Yeah.
Construction of high-end homes compared to construction of spaces for film sets, temporary, stuff like that.
Yeah.
They're different worlds, but there's a lot to be learned, I think, from each other in those processes. At least we got a lot out of it. And that's just one example of what we did as a podcast. But I think for us, it's like, you like you said, you want to be nichey, but you don't want to be too nichey. You want to be able to create like interesting things to talk about that aren't just in our space of high-end residential 100%. Like we had a guy the other day that builds tree houses, right? And that's he builds tree houses, like really cool tree houses in the sky, and then he was building hotels of tree houses and all these kind of really cool architectural tree houses. And we were like, this is cool, it's interesting, it's crafty, and it was also high end.
Yeah.
And then getting into the mindset of like the feeling you have as a kid going in a treehouse and the escape vibe.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So like kind of we've had different people for different things, and I've specifically looked for stuff off the beaten track as well. But mainly it has been architects, interior designers. But we've also had like business managers and
interesting.
and we've had other people of influence, real estate agents as well, but
sure,
just different people in the world, like bringing other knowledge base. I think for us, like that high end can also bleed into finance, right? Could it bleed into management of money, right? And like wealth creation, and some other things like that. So we're still defining it, right? I'm like playing around with different stuff, and it's interesting. We don't even know what the feedback of the audience is. What do they want to know? But
We haven't dived over into like the finance or the money aspects of all these things, but it's an interesting. I mean, it's an important part of it. That's an
Yeah, it is.
interesting angle. But I agree. Like finding out those connections between what we do and what other people do has been one of the more rewarding aspects of doing the show, and it's not something you would know on the surface. And it's I think it's an obvious statement, but realizing you're not the only one with these challenges or these solutions
Mm,
is a great assurance for anybody. Even if we've been
mm,
practicing for 15 years, hearing that, oh, there's this artist and they face the same questions as we do, and they also solve them in a
mm,
quite similar manner,
mm.
like that means something to us. Like,
Yeah.
so a really specific example, I'm going way back because this one just stands out to me. We had Tristan Eaton on the show like years ago. He's a street artist, a really
Cool.
fine artist. He does like fun. If you should look him up, like he does like phenomenal stuff, right? He's a beast,
Mm.
and but he's not like an architect. He doesn't design plans or houses or whatever. He does big murals, and he was describing
He's a
his
graffiti artist,
he's a
right? I
graffiti
mean,
artist.
like
Yeah.
at the end of the day, that's what he really is. He's street artist, graffiti artist. There's
Yes.
something raw about that, but then you look at Banksy and you go, "Fuck."
Yeah. Yeah.
You know
And
what I
this
mean?
guy does like giant murals that are like 3 stories
Oh, really?
tall. And
There's a
so they're
lot of
really
those in
like
LA as well.
fine art works of art,
Yeah.
really. But hearing how he thinks through his pieces and his design process is like, oh, some of the way you approach it in the early concept design phase in our language is actually
Similar.
very similar to
Yeah.
us. He was like, even though the final piece is this 2D mural,
Yeah.
a lot of times for him, he has to write down his thoughts and think through conceptually and test the ideas in writing with
Really?
and not drawing. And like that's actually the
That's
same thing
interesting.
for us. It's like when we're in and you're just talking about the concept design part, right? When we're thinking through ideas, the written language and just verbally speaking about it is a really good different testing space to figure out if what we're doing is the right path.
Mm,
And it's not it's that obviously in conjunction with
mm,
drawing stuff, the house in our case or the
mm.
mural in his case, but like the idea of writing it down, I think for most people who are not in our profession would be like, why would you need to write down
Well, a lot of people,
decisions?
I wouldn't have even thought of that necessarily,
Yeah,
right? Like an architect, I'm thinking schematic design, you're sketching stuff, and yeah, you're
yeah,
drawing stuff in 3D and kind of getting idea of spaces, but not like writing down the concepts. I guess ultimately, yeah, you do have a concept that you say out loud, but like I never thought about how you might have got to that concept of
yeah.
like you probably wrote down a bunch of different stuff to even get there, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So in the early days, there's a lot of kind of push and pull, and there's a really dynamic relationship between that written text, that paragraph,
Mm-hmm.
the notes, and then quick sketches.
Mm,
And to see, if what I'm writing down sounds like a good idea, is what I'm drawing expressive of that idea or not? And if it's not, and I think this idea is valid, then what I've drawn is not valid. Right. Or sometimes it's the opposite. I have this great idea on paper that,
yeah.
sounds good
Can
in
I draw
writing.
that?
And then we
Yeah.
look at the site, we're like, that this idea is great for what it is, but it really doesn't belong with this site or this client or this whatever. Okay, so we have
Mm,
to kind of so it's just like this constant feedback loop between these
mm.
two sides
Yeah, that makes sense.
that in our office at least, we found to be very powerful and productive.
Yeah.
I think now we're diving deep into like the mindset of the architect, right? I think it's really easy if we only were to work with the drawings and the 3D renderings and like the
Yeah.
typical architecture stuff,
Yeah.
it's very easy to be seduced by something that looks really cool, but that's not enough, right? The question is what we're designing, does it
Yeah.
look cool, but does it have meaning and substance behind it?
Yeah.
Does it have value and integrity?
I would imagine that like that's the type of thing that becomes very important when it comes to recognition for architecture and competitions and things of this nature, like for being able to
Yeah.
to be able somebody really understand
Yeah.
that the architecture is amazing, but the concept behind it is even more amazing, and the two together
Yeah.
is really what gets you that kind of ability to be able to be truly recognized in the industry as someone amazing, no?
That's totally correct. And the funny thing is, one of the challenges is, these projects take so long.
Yeah.
And But establishing let's all call it the concept of the project or the narrative of the project, oftentimes it happens in the earlier design phases and it morphs and changes or maybe reveals itself somewhere in like schematic design, like, a few months into the process. But the point is, when that idea is established and it's executed throughout all the details of the project, from the time that it's established until the project is done, photographed, and then submitted for publication, you're talking about potentially 3 years later.
Yeah.
Or even longer, right? So internally for us, it's challenging because it's like, oh wait, 3 years ago, what was the narrative behind this project? So that narrative and the concept is critical for creating a story for publication.
Yes.
But it's weird because it's like, that's in the past, man. That's like 3 years ago. Now I have to try and remember what the heck the whole
What's the concept?
idea was. But it's a key part to explaining is a very dry word, but like selling the architecture or conveying the architecture to people in a way where they become excited about it. So when they see it, there's another layer of thinking to it.
Yeah.
Frankly, also, it's pretty helpful it's critical for us internally as a guiding light when we're making decisions, like I said, but also for the client, right? So the ideal relationship.
They get to explain it to other people.
That's a big part of it too.
Right.
And what do people love?
That becomes their story.
People love stories more than anything else.
100%.
So if they can point to something and say, sometimes the story in a completed house could be like a technical thing that was resolved that required a lot of effort, or it's like the flow of space and how the light cascade downs in the morning.
Yeah.
And how like the skylight, the shadows cast throughout the day, like that kind of stuff. People love that stuff. And clients who care about what we're doing to spend a lot of money on an architect and to build a house, they want to be able to tell a story to their friends and family that come and visit.
They do.
And so it's very, I think, empowering to have them give them that language, but also have them understand really as best as they can what we're trying to create with them as we go on this journey. And if they can buy into the idea as much as we do during the design process, that's the best thing. Because now we're like really, we've had clients who have some kind of background in the arts, either they're doing something or they love the arts, they kind of get it quicker.
Sure, of course.
And
they gravitate.
And they're like, and they're the ones to really help us through it sometimes. And like, I don't know if this thing like really fits with the rest of the house or whatever. Like that's a valid point. You totally get it. And it's a very, very powerful thing for us, the concept statement.
Yeah. And so like to that point, is there any competitions that you've actually been able to win with this kind of like well thought out process and architecture?
Yeah, well, so the well thought out process is a result of many years of working. So it's not like I always had to figure it out.
Sure.
But competitions is an interesting one because, years ago I won a competition and one of my family members was kind of telling their neighbor about the fact that we won this, kind of very proudly saying, oh, David won this thing. And the neighbor was like, oh, well, it's kind of subjective. And they was like, no, it's not subjective. It's about the quality of the design and also the quality of the idea behind what you're doing.
Right.
Right. Like that's a key thing. So yes, I've personally won a couple competitions and a handful more like with different teams and different offices back when I was working in different places. And competitions more from the lens of like conceptual competitions that are more for the growth of an architect internally, I think is a very, very productive way to do work. There are so I'm separating. So there's that kind of competitions, which are, let's say, more academic and conceptual, meaning they say that they're not going to necessarily result in a built work of a building. And then there's competitions that
sounds like someone's jumping upstairs.
And there's their competitions that are in the professional setting where you enter to win for the building to be built. That setting is plagued with a lot of problems from a financial standpoint for offices. And I'm kind of against that because you end up as an office putting in tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars of work for free.
For free.
To enter this thing, and then you're being judged by a jury of like kind of random people. But to go back to your question, so one of the first ones I'd won was way back in the day, and it was it's kind of a fun story. So it was when I was in school. That's how long ago it was, and it was for a housing tower in Mexico City. And
oh, cool.
my classmate and I think I'm the one who found the competition, and somehow I convinced him to do it with me. I don't know how. We decided to do this thing on our own, without any help from anybody, really. Um, and so we went through the process. It was a 2-phase international competition, so kind of a big deal, especially for 2 students to do it on their own without any help from anyone, really. We go through phase 1, we make it to the finals, which is super exciting. And then for the second phase, the competition required that we establish like a team of students to work with, because that was another aspect of it. Aside from the design, it was about, working with people. So we enlisted like half a dozen or more of our classmates, paid them with like Taco Bell and coffee to stay up really late for a couple months to work with us on this thing, produce all this work. We get the school to pay for our flight tickets because we flew to Chicago to do the presentation. Go to Chicago with our boards and models in hand, get there the night before. The model was squished and wrecked in the airplane rides. We had to
really?
fix it the night before, get up early, get all this coffee in us, do the presentations, tour Chicago during the day, nervously waiting to find out the results in the afternoon. And then the funny thing is there were, I think, 6 subcategories and then the main prize, which was like the grand winner. We won 5 out of the 6 subcategories.
Whoa.
And the top prize.
Whoa.
Yeah. And so
does that mean that this thing ever got built, or is it just one of those things?
Just a conceptual thing, yeah. I mean, it could...
Do you have the images of this thing, like, that you could dig out?
Yeah, I could find something.
If you dig them out, like, we're going to put them like, right here on the screen. Here's the design, so we can show them, guess what you did back then. That would be really cool. And then they'll have to tune in and watch the video rather than just listening to this thing. They're like, I want to see what this building looked like.
I could give you some
How old
pictures.
were you when you...
Oh, gosh, that's a good question. I mean, I must have been like... I don't know. It was before I was 21. I know that.
Oh, wow. So you were young.
I was young. Yeah.
That's impressive, dude.
Yeah. It was, back then it's a big deal, right? You're a kid. And then to fly to Chicago on your own, like we almost missed our fucking... Yeah. Can we swear on here? We almost missed our fucking...
I don't give a fuck.
We almost missed our flight because we didn't understand the difference between like boarding time versus like flight time.
Yeah.
All that kind of stuff. But like, the concept behind it was a key point, and that's honestly why I think we won. In addition to the deliverables being pretty good.
Do you think that helped you as a talking point for interviews to get jobs down the road?
It did, yeah.
100%, right?
Yeah, and so
it's great interview talking point, right?
100%. So like I taught architecture off and on for about 6 years, and I'm getting a lot of questions to this day still from people who are young aspiring architects, and they're trying to get advice to like get jobs and that whole kind of gig.
Winning a competition is
to
recognize yourself.
100%. And the like I said, it goes back to storytelling. So when we present to clients, and it's the same thing as I think when you're a young architect looking for a job, applying to our office or other offices. When you're presenting your work, right, you have to have some emotion behind the presentation, and you have to have a story behind it. So in that example, right, there's so many things I can extract from that project to make it meaningful for an employer's perspective. And the same thing can be applied to clients. Like, what can we extract from this design and tell the client in a client presentation so they're on board with what we're doing?
Yeah.
In the case of that tower, right, we could talk about the design and how it was like a 3D extrusion of the 2D urban fabric, and we created parks and plazas in the tower, so it really becomes like a public tower that would develop over time with individual units. Like, that's the design kind of aspect of it. We could talk about the team leadership aspect of it. We could talk about, again, the line of like paying our underclassmen with like Taco Bell and coffee is a funny thing, but we made some of our best friends, in life through this competition. And again, no one told us to do it. Like, we just decided to be committed.
Do it, yeah.
And so I love looking back, as painful as it is to think about a project that was like, 3 years ago, like I was saying earlier. I love looking back and thinking, like, what's the stuff that we can extract that was, the challenges, the solutions, the fun stuff.
Have you ever thought about actually creating your own competition?
So it's funny you asked.
Because I was like, that'd be a really great way to go give back to your younger self. And say, hey, man, I'm going to create this really cool competition that like actually has some cachet that could be cool for some young folk to now
It's a great, we've thought about that for our podcast because we have a pretty big following. So
Yeah.
we thought about like, why don't we do something like that? And maybe, the reward would be a little bit of money and it wouldn't be a profession. It would be a chance for like young architects to like flex their muscles on their own, get some publication, and then they
Yeah.
could be on the show. So
Yeah.
yes. It's one of those things like on my list of things to do for the last like 2 years.
I mean, the other thing you could do was you could get other architects involved, right? And I don't know, this is just an idea off the top of my head, but maybe what you could do is like there's 4 or 5 or 6 architects that are all looking to hire somebody, let's just say, right? And they're struggling to find good talent. You throw this competition and, there's, 4 or 5 winners and each one of them gets a job. Do you know what I mean? Like,
That's like,
that could be a kind of a fun way of doing it.
Yeah.
Plus some other stuff, maybe, right? Then just get a job and get some money or something, or they get some other cool stuff. But that could be cool.
Yeah. It's not a bad.
Because I get a lot of complaints from architects that they struggle to find good talent.
I have the same complaint. It's tough. It's really difficult.
So,
it's really difficult. I think it's difficult too because a lot of us like we think back to our time when we were younger or when we were in school. It's like, yeah, but I knew a bunch of people who were crazy talented. Where the fuck are those guys now?
Yeah.
Where are they? But I think there's just so many people applying that, I think the people that are in your circle and in our circles are really talented architects, right? And so
they have high standards.
They have, I mean, realistically across the board, if you think big picture, it's very, very high standards. So it's like, if you throw a net and you catch 100 random architects applying, you're really talking about 1 out of 100, maybe. So like that's
the minerals.
I think that's part of it. To be fair.
Yeah. So I mean, taking that idea that you guys are doing the elite, right? And it's elite. 1, we're in LA. 2, some of the most sophisticated and high-end houses in the world. Best location, right? Like there's not too many places in the world that can compare from a quality standpoint with LA in terms of the quality of what's being built. I think you could make an argument that Florida and Miami has come up, but there used to be that the quality there was really bad. It's only really more recently that they've actually started to get a bit more quality in what they're doing in terms of the actual finished quality, right? There's a lot of really cheap track home builders, right? Not
100%.
High. So from that perspective, like, I guess the question is when you're designing a house, how do you, what kind of strategies are you using to be able to create this really feeling of high end, almost cinematic, architecture, right? That feels and creates that kind of feeling that you're looking to create, right? Not only that, how do you deliver that as a service, right, to your clients?
That's a really good question. So I love the word cinematic because it's one of the keywords that we use often to describe how we approach our designs. And when I'm meeting a client for the first time, they're like, tell us about yourself. I'm like, well, where do I start? Cinematic is one of the keywords that we use. And I like that word because most people understand what it means, but it also, it's very holistic and there's an emotional component to that, right? Cinematic
it means
is
something in LA as well in a way.
Actually I never thought about that. That's true. Yeah. Vibes with LA. And it's an experience, right? That you feel. It's not a dry technical aspect of architecture, which is part of what we do, that kind of problem solving, but it's really about the completed thing. What does it feel like? The holistic experience, again, the subtlety of the light changing, that part of the performance of the building is one of the more difficult things to accomplish, right? Like getting down the program, fine, you can do that. Getting the square footage to be locked in, fine, we can do that. Meeting the code, all that other stuff, right? We can do, and it's challenging, that other stuff, but it's not that like extra bit that makes it really, really sing. So how we do it with clients specifically for custom houses is we take quite a lot of pride in spending a couple of weeks at the very beginning before we draw anything, taking that time to understand the client and their goals and understand the site. And that's really, really critical for us. And this is developed over the years, like I've said before. And I think as a creative person, and I think a lot of architects and designers would agree with this. It's very tempting when you see a site and you have a loose understanding of program. Okay, let's just start drawing some cool stuff, right? We'll do this and that, whatever. But when you're working with an individual or a couple or a family or whoever, that is you if you don't spend the time to understand who you're working with, you're going to make a misstep, or rather you're going to go down a path that's separate from them by too much.
Yeah.
So the way I described like the design process for us and the relationship with the client is the client has an idea of a goal in mind, and we want to help them get there and beyond something that they're
What would be an example of a goal like that
from a client?
they might give you? Yeah, like I'm just wondering, like what is like something that they might say, this is my goal, and then you're like, okay, well, how do I do that?
Yeah. So sometimes, we have all of our clients fill out a 5-page questionnaire.
Sure.
And if there's 2 partners, they each have to fill out the questionnaire separately.
Sure.
And then we have a meeting to see how aligned or not aligned they
Yeah.
are. And we also ask them in there to write down, like, what would be your mission statement for this project? And so a mission statement that is pretty profound. One was, stating this is a home that we're going to retire in. I want a retreat. I want privacy. This is meant to be my safe place where I'm going to be outside a lot with our dog. And this is our little oasis.
So
Sanctuary, right? That is and there's a lot of things to impact from those few lines. There was something along that, the verbiage. There's a lot of things that we can impact from there, but that has a clear emotion, to it. Other times with clients, they're a little less, they spend less time trying to answer the question. And that also is reflective. That tells us who we're going to work with as well, right? And we help them figure out like, what is the bigger motivation behind the project? So like, for example, someone who answers the question and says, well, I want, a house with 5 bedrooms and X amount of baths and I want to view the ocean. That's actually not a mission statement. That's just the stuff.
That's
right?
stuff.
We're trying to get to
That's the program.
why. Yeah, that's the program. We're trying to get to the why. Like, what is the motivation?
Yeah.
So sometimes it does take
like, for example, like you could say, like what comes to my mind, like if and I'm not imagining myself writing this, but I'm imagining my wife writing this, right? Which is different from what I would write, but I might also write this as well. But like, I can imagine like my wife writing, I want a house that feels welcoming in a way that guests and people that come over are part of a community that they feel relaxed, right? Like so it's not just about me. It's about our experience together that it creates, and that feeling, right, of welcome and openness in the environment. She's just kind of that kind of person, open and really welcoming. That could be part of it, and then it could be what's important to me, right? Maybe that's like a garden that's just super relaxing, or water and privacy and security, and there's so many other things that you can bring into it that people might say that it's like on their priority list. But other things I've talked to people about is like, how do you sleep?
Yeah.
Right. Like this is the big one for me. Because it's always like my wife and I have different schedules. Like she'll stay up late sometimes, and I'll go to bed early sometimes. And sometimes we're passing in the night or whatever, and it's like the fact that she has to go through the bedroom to get to the bathroom can be troublesome.
Yeah.
For sleep patterns and stuff like that. And it's like, like if I redesigned my house and built my own house, which I've not done yet, I'd love to. Maybe you'll build it for me. Maybe you'll design it for me.
I don't want to build it. I'll build
it. You design. Is like, I would fix that, right? That flow and like stuff like that, like about like making it so that it's like not disturbing to.
Yeah, I love that. Like that's a really specific but powerful example. And so we cover as much as we can in those first 2 weeks. But before we get to a specific space like the bedroom or the kitchen, like the big, those big areas, we will have another meeting and say, okay, let's do a recap of like all the things you want and don't want and what works and doesn't work in your current, residence and how you think you're going to live in the future. Because there's just so much, right? I mean, a house is such an intimate thing and there's so many specific aspects to how people live.
Yeah.
And sometimes even subconscious. So we have to extract all of that. So, I think for us getting to know the client is just a really big part of our jobs. And frankly, also, that is important, obviously, to serve the client better, right? So the house fits them better.
Yeah.
It's also important for us because we like to think of every project as being a lot or a little bit different from the previous one.
Mm.
And it's always and this is not just, I mean, a lot of architects would agree with this. It's the site, it's the client, it's the unique chemistry of the project where we can extract stuff from them. So here's an interesting example that has more to do with like the design impact. We had a client where, they bought this property and it was a decent sized property and had all this like overgrown natural landscaping and trees and everything. And they loved that. It was like really wild. And in the process of getting to know them the first few weeks, we realized, okay, these are really special people. And for a lot of reasons, one of them is that, the husband grew up in a forest, like a forest in Europe. And the wife didn't have that experience, but she also loves that setting.
Yeah.
And then that's why they
chose that site.
chose that site. We're like, okay, let's embrace this idea.
They need to keep
of
as
forest.
much greenery as possible. Yeah.
So it means keeping the tall trees. It means keeping a lot of the key plants. It also means that, this idea of feeling of the feeling of the forest and the poetry of the forest. Okay, that's an interesting idea. Like, how do we design a house that expresses the poetry of a forest? And so in our writing and our diagramming in the early phases, we're like, we could do a house that like mimics the forest, but we don't really want to do that because they want like something modern and sleek and whatever. We said, one of the interesting things about being in a forest as a human being is the way you move, right? The forest has trees that are, fallen over. You're kind of moving in this off kilter manner where you're weaving between nature and you're subservient to nature, right? It's not a flat area. We're just walking straight forward. You have to move a certain way.
So like different levels is
different levels, and the trees are moving with you. And so the floor plan of the house was orchestrated with these subtle angles, or sometimes more drastic angles, to work around the trees. For the sake of preserving the landscape, but also then when you move through a house, you're also moving in this way that you would in a forest, but at the scale of a house. And then the architecture became, very, very primitive. It was like, we'll have these walls that are concrete that were almost like archaic objects in the forest that pre-existed from 1,000 years ago.
Yeah.
And then the roof just simply sits on top of that.
Yeah.
And that's the architecture. And the rest is just glass and some infill.
Yeah.
And, that's a very poetic and artful way to approach a house that again is not us just drawing cool stuff just because it looks cool. Like there's actual meaning behind it for the narrative of that particular.
It's like taking something like an old building that's 2,000 years old that's kind of fallen apart a little bit in the concrete of it, and adding something uber contemporary into it and just juxtapositioning those two things together in the architecture is what you were doing.
Yeah, exactly. So that even bled over into, okay, well, how can we further emphasize that, to your point? And we were like, what if we do these walls first, let them sit and get kind of dirty and let them age, then do the rest.
Cool.
But so like if a concept is robust enough, and not all projects have a killer concept, by the way. It's a difficult thing to do. But if a concept is truly robust enough, it bleeds over and informs a lot of things in the house. From the floor plan to the form to the materials to like all these things.
Which is a great point, because it's like, well, how the hell can you do architecture and interior architecture in a vacuum, or have it just it kind of begs the question. It's really hard to do one without the other, and I think it's so much better when they're done together by the same person as opposed to two different entities. Don't you think?
Yeah, I mean that's why our office does both. For sure.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, we
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
Do you often do them together? You try to do them together if you can?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously it comes down to the client, right? So sometimes we end up partnering with other folks, which is completely fine. We love collaborations, but we also think clearly there's a lot of value into a holistic vision for the project. And as an extreme example, anyone living in LA, we've all seen these houses where the outside looks like one thing. We get inside and you're like, what happened here?
Yeah.
Not that the inside is bad unto itself, but has nothing to do with the outside or the flow of the outside or the floor plan. And clearly there's this mismatch between like the exterior architecture, the floor plan, the site plan, and the interior decor, like all these layers of the project, right? It's easy for them to, for those, if there's a team of different professionals,
don't talk to each other.
to just not talk to each other. And so we want everything to be in sync to create that living experience that just feels good.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, you know, you said you interviewed a studio, a production designer,
Yeah.
right? Like in some ways, I'm not super familiar with the movie industry, but I would say maybe it's the director that has their overall vision. You need someone who has that vision, right? And you can have other teams, but they need to be orchestrated to work together. And too often, frankly, especially in LA, I see where the client hires these individuals, but they don't talk to each other.
Yeah.
For whatever reason. Maybe the client doesn't want them to, or whatever it might be. And it produces just these like funky things, and it drives me nuts.
The word fragmented comes up a lot in our industry.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. The number of times I've seen plans by other architects, like we pretty often get approached by clients who have already started a project with an architect, and they're maybe 2, 3, 4, whatever months into it. They find us somehow and they say, hey, I like you guys. Can you like
take a look
at this?
And you're like, what the fuck is going on here, man? Like, we need to start again.
It happens. Yeah. And so they're like, can we like tweak some stuff?
No,
like,
I would get rid of
I got some bad news for you here. You could tweak some things, but given your critique that you're saying, which by the way, client, even though you are not in this field at all, your criticisms and concerns are totally valid about the process, the level of service, the quality of service, and the plan that we're looking at. This is more than just a few weeks.
Yeah.
And we've done that a handful of times.
I think that the fact that you do interior design as well as architecture gives you a unique ability to plan the architecture of the spaces in a significantly more advanced way. Because ultimately, whether you're working with a separate interior designer or not, let's just say you are, there's going to be times in which you're working in a vacuum away from the other interior architects, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Just
by the nature of the fact that they're a different firm from you. So the fact that you can do it continuously, not in a vacuum, and the same person is thinking about the layout of the kitchen and sink with the fridge and the dishwasher and the triangle and all this stuff at the same time as thinking about the overall space and how it relates to the living room and all these different things, just means that you're going to ultimately just, I think, come up with a much better space and layout. I mean, I think that ultimately when the interior designer comes on board, they end up potentially just sending you backwards because they start to say, well, no, we should reconfigure it this way. And then they start interrupting some things that maybe you worked out. Am I wrong?
So when we're working with other teams, we take the integrated project delivery approach. So we onboard as many people as possible.
But sometimes the interior designer comes on board way later.
I so disagree with that.
They come on board super late. You're like, they don't come. What happens is, in my experience, it's client driven. They go, we don't want to pay for interior design yet. We want to get into plan check first. Let's get into plan check so that we're moving forward. Then they get the permit and they're like, okay, let's start construction. And they still don't have the interior design on board.
It is the worst. So like we talked about, we both have podcasts. We both have had a lot of networks. We know a lot of people in these industries, right? One of the like 3 recurring themes, principles, I don't know, whatever you call it, that is unanimous across all the professionals is you do not do that. You do not fragment, you do not isolate, you do not silo, you do not put things off until later, you integrate. And it's, it drives me nuts when clients decide not to do that. And I get it, from saving a little bit of money from this, not their industry. So they're doing their best to kind of think through it. But in my view, I'm like, if you have literally all the professionals across all these different, the interior architect, the engineer, everyone's saying, don't do that. What does that tell you? Right? You want to spend, in my view, with the process as a client, you want to spend a little more time and money upfront to save even like 3x time and money later on.
Yeah.
That's just how it works, right? I mean, I'm preaching to the choir. You know this.
Well, here's the thing. I would also echo that by saying even further down the line, when the design maybe is a little bit more developed, but not too developed, and you're bringing on board a contractor for pre-construction services, do you want to know the number one person that hires Blackbriar for pre-construction services? Out of everybody, the person that hires us for pre-construction services
Can
the
I take
most.
a guess?
Guess.
Developers.
Yes.
Because developers know they can't fuck around with with risk.
They do. They and they understand the value of what we're doing.
There it is.
They understand that essentially all you're doing is saying all of the shit that this project manager is going to do during construction to buy out the trades. We're now doing it before he starts construction. And now all of the time that the project manager was going to spend having to like prepare the trades for the superintendent to build, he can spend all of that time just helping the superintendent build.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
In the simplest form,
yeah,
you're just freeing up his time to actually concentrate on what he should be doing, which is actually help to build properly rather than, let's just say, buy properly, right?
Yeah.
Build versus buy.
Yeah.
Is the way I like to look at it. So it's the same thing, right?
Yep.
It's about bringing the processes forward, which really is what we're doing. We're moving to a manufacturing process, right?
In a way, yeah.
In the simplest form, we're moving to a manufacturing process, which takes it from more static to less dynamic as much as we can. Obviously, construction is dynamic when you're building. It's unavoidable, but the more you can make it a little bit more controllable, I think the better, right?
Yeah.
And the way to control that is, better planning, right? Better processes, more integration between interior designer, architect, builder, up front.
Yeah.
And, just trying to be ahead of everything you can be ahead of before you start construction, right?
Yeah, because like you said, construction is it's like a field of landmines. And by doing the planning correctly and having the team on board, you're minimizing the risk of hitting any landmines. You'll hit a few still, but you won't hit like so many of them.
Yeah.
And they won't be as, life threatening, let's say.
And you'll build faster.
And you'll get through it quicker.
You build a lot quicker.
Yeah. I mean, I like the manufacturing analogy. In fact, I was speaking with a prospective client recently, and they were asking about how we work and to describe pre-construction, provided by a contractor. And they were like, well, I'm not sure about the value. I said, think the value of it. I said, well, think about it this way. Let's imagine for a moment we're in a different industry and you're going to create a new car from scratch. Brand new car company, you're creating new car design from scratch, and you hire a car designer to design this crazy cool car for you. And you're going to have them design it for the course of 10 months to a year. But you're not going to once have them speak with the manufacturing side to say, hey, how much is it going to cost to build this like crazy thing we're doing? Does that make sense to build it that way?
You would build it.
You're just going to spend 12 months of fee on that person and then find out if it makes sense to be built. That's a crazy idea, right? You would never do that. You'd say, no, car designer individual, you should be able to talk to the people who are actually going to build this thing to have this, feedback loop between the two sides. You're like, oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Of course.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's the same thing for a house.
Yeah.
I think maybe, I don't know. I'd love your thoughts on this. I think maybe like houses, I think people don't realize how complex houses are. That's why they think there's not as much risk to kind of like partition everybody. Cause it's like, well, how hard can it be? Like, thousands of houses are built, every year. Like, we don't need to talk to that person or this person. Like it'll be figured out.
Yeah.
But houses are complicated.
Yeah. I mean, especially the ones that we work on. I mean, they're more complicated than normal houses.
Yeah.
Like we just finished a house right now in Beverly Hills that is, for an end user, it's not a massive house, but it looks super simple.
Mm-hmm. but
that's what makes it so complicated.
A modern style.
It's a modern house. Yeah. I mean, like just a couple of examples, right? They have a 15-inch baseboard with a 1/2-inch riglet flush to the drywall.
Yeah.
But that riglet continues into the doors, up and around the doors. But not only that, the riglet then also goes through the door. right?
Oh.
Which is a wood door,
Okay.
which is the same reveal goes through the door, right?
Yeah.
Now, also above the door, that riglet continues across the top of the door, which the door jambs are also stone jambs.
Okay.
But then that same riglet continues across and around all of the drywall at the ceiling line and then above the doors and goes all the way around in the entire house, which ties into every single jam and every single spot, right? So then like all those elevations and have to be perfect, right? They have to be perfect. You can't miss anything, and they all tie into riglets at the windows as well.
This is the type of thing that an architectural drawing be like, this thing looks super cool.
Yeah.
And then a contractor's like, oh my God, this line goes like, everywhere.
Yeah, and it's exactly, and it becomes really, really like lasers just become so important for everything. You know, and it looks really cool, but it was really tricky to build.
Yeah.
Sure. You know, but yeah, and that's the thing. Sometimes the most simplest things like that, like look at are the hardest to build. I think that's why I would say, you know, modern is so much harder to build than traditional. But
I was actually this is one of my questions for you, and I love asking contractors this in general. Is like, do you think modern is more difficult than traditional?
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, I think there's elements of there's tricky things within traditional builds that you can identify, right? Like that are like more specialist things, right? Like, you know, whether that be
like the craftsmanship
precast elements, or, you know, more decorative, you know, trim work and, you know, stuff where we use, you know, specialists like plaster and different things that make, you know, are more complicated about the craftsmanship of traditional houses.
Yeah.
But when it comes to alignments and kind of these details of like door jambs and baseboards and some of these like these elements, like that's what becomes, I think, tricky about modern is like the lines.
Yeah, the framing has to be so much better.
Seeing these lines and like being able to see mistakes. Like we have couple of different people that we work with that are very good on the design side at seeing those things as well on site. Like, I don't know about you, but like there's a couple of interior designers that I've worked with, and they will just spot like a 1/16 of an inch out over like 20 feet, and they'll see something that I don't see.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got a pretty good eye, but they'll catch something. Like they'll catch like something in the framing that I'm also thankful for. It's like, I'm glad that you
now than
that.
later, yeah.
Right, or a light that's just slightly tweaked, right? Like, you know, a 1/16 with a square can on a line. Like, we just want to catch that stuff. Like, you know, because it's so much easier to see it once drywall's up. You catch it in the roughs.
Yeah.
Catching stuff in the roughs is a lot harder, especially when you can see through walls. Like, it's like, you know, it's a lot more difficult.
Yeah.
I think there's rarely a project where there's not one thing that we didn't like make a mistake on in the roughs, that we have to move at least something that we needed to tweak, right? That's not perfect.
Of course.
Right? It's unrealistic to expect that there's not something that you didn't catch.
I mean, my experience, I would agree with the difference between traditional and modern construction. And, you know, we have clients who, like, again, we do modern work. And so when it comes to them choosing a contractor, you know, we're heavily involved in that process, but also not so much these days, but in the past, I'd have to explain to them, like, look, if you want this house that's ultra modern with these clean lines everywhere, that informs who the GC is. Like, there's a lot you can hide with molding.
Yeah,
even if it's very intricate molding, you can hide gaps. Like, that 1/16 of finish doesn't fucking matter in a traditional house.
No, exactly.
A modern house, you see that line all the way across it. If it shifts by a 1/16 or an 1/8 or whatever it is, like, it's ultra visible to the naked eye.
Yeah.
It's a different beast.
Yeah.
It's a different beast.
Yeah, I mean, especially with these things like plaster applications, like just knowing that, like, you know, we got a level 5 drywall finish and we're going to be putting a plaster application on it, which is going to give us an additional 1/16 buildup or whatever, and that we need to make sure that if we have a flush condition with the riglet that we've set our baseboard forward that. amount so that they will be perfectly aligned. It's like, if you just don't know, you don't know.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that comes from experience, those types of things, like understanding and knowing like how to be ahead of that, and like catching them as an owner of a construction company compared to just expecting your superintendent to catch everything, because you're going to have different superintendents across different projects doing different things at different levels of experience that are better or worse at different things.
Yeah.
But the skill is that you help catch those things for them that they wouldn't catch, or you also know maybe what some of your people are good at and not good at, and then cross-pollinate them. I send them to each other's job sites.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Because I'll send them and say, go look at this, like just, and just kind of like, just give me some thoughts like on what you're seeing, different guys at different stuffs. Because there's guys that might be better in the roughs than the finishes, or vice versa. So send them to help each other at what they're not necessarily as good at, like, and checking on stuff, check each other's and like let them cross-pollinate. It's a great way to also make sure that the supers spend time with each other, because ultimately they're on an island and they're the one job. They might spend fucking 2 years on a job and not meet any of the other supers apart from at the Christmas party or one of a time. So, like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's important to get them meeting and hanging out with each other.
Yeah, I think it's actually very easy for a project, but also in the professions in general, to become like really kind of isolated, which is why I love these types of conversations. It's just because the projects take so much effort and we all are so dedicated to the work that sometimes it's easy to be kind of like tunnel vision on the project, or like just your office, or just, whatever, just your profession.
Yeah.
And just opening it up is just, if anything, it's a nice mental break every now and then.
Yeah.
But so tell me more about what you guys do. So when was Blackbriar started?
Well, Blackbriar's only been as an entity on its own around for about 7 or 8 years.
Okay.
But I've been building in LA for over 20 years. But
you were not in LA before that?
Not originally, no. As you can tell, I'm a Brit originally, but I moved to LA 20 years ago. Yeah.
Okay, right
20
on.
years ago. Yeah, I
Wow.
moved to LA.
You still have the accent. You haven't lost it. You should keep
Practice in the mirror every morning, mate. Round a rugged rocks the rascal ran. She sells seashells by the seashore, right? Just every morning.
You should hold on to the accent.
Yeah. But I used to have a partner. I used to have a partner. Our company previously was called A&G, Allen and Green.
Okay.
And him and I were partners for about 10 years. And then he moved away, so we kind of went our separate ways. And when he did that, I was like, well, I'm not going to keep it as Allen Green anymore because the Allen wasn't there. So I was like, rather than me just call it Green, I was just like, let me just start a new name.
Yeah.
And so when we came up with the name Blackbriar, like, it was we had a branding company come in and did everything for our company, and they came up with the name Blackbriar. I was like, oh yeah, that sounds cool.
Yeah.
And then
I like it.
And then I later found out that it came from Jason Bourne.
That's right.
It's like
it was like a Blackbriar
it's
program.
Like that's who they were chasing, like the bad company or something. Like the conspiracy was like Blackbriar this, and in the movie.
Yeah.
And I was like, and I found out, and I asked the branding company, I was like, oh, so you got it from Jason Bourne? They were like, yeah, we see you as like an American James Bond. And that's why we came up with Blackbriar.
You're like, I'm sold. I love.
I was like, yes, this is cool, man. I'll
Who doesn't want to be
a James Bond in America? I was like,
I think it's a good name.
Blackbriar.
It's a sexy name. It's a good name.
It's got a cool name. Yeah, it's got a cool ring to it. So yeah, and then since then, we've just been, we've been building some cool stuff.
So when you rebranded to Blackbriar, that also represents a shift in the approach, the work? Like, were there other things, or was it just like a reskinning of the?
No, definitely. I think that.
Like, were you guys always focusing on houses? Was that the?
Yeah, we focused a lot on high-end residential back then, but I think that there was definitely a shift for me personally when I was on my own, because now it felt like I could really just do all of everything that I wanted to do, as opposed to being beholden to a partner that maybe had some other ideas about how they saw the business, and create something that I felt was like more representative of who I was as well. It's not just about the brand of Blackbriar. I think it's personal brand as well. I think in this day and age today, like personal brand is also really important
Yeah.
to what we're doing. People, especially on the build side, that they're buying into the company, but they're buying into you
Yeah.
and your processes and your beliefs and who you are as a person. And if they know they can rely on you, right, when the shit hits the fan, if something goes wrong, that you're going to do the right thing.
Yeah.
Right, this is the most important thing that they need, that especially as a builder,
Yeah.
because things do go wrong.
Yeah.
It's not how you handle things when they go right, it's how you handle things when they go wrong. It's the
Totally.
most important thing,
Yeah.
right? Like, obviously you try to do everything you can to avoid things going wrong, but mistakes will happen and things will happen, and it's not necessarily always everything that you can control.
Yeah.
It tends to be a subcontractor that you can't control,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we had a client we were building a house for, and we ordered these beautiful steel windows from Europe, and the subcontractor that we hired to deliver them, we had to give a fairly hefty deposit for the windows and doors up front, which is normal for a window and door contract. It was like a 50% contract, right? And on a fairly large contract value.
Okay.
1.6 million, I think it was, for these windows.
For the window and door
Yeah,
package.
so half of that, so like 700 grand, whatever.
Yeah.
We gave this guy 700 grand and he fucking ran off with the money.
Oh my God.
He ran off with the fucking money. like, so what do you do in that situation?
So was he wasn't stateside?
No, he was in the States. Oh yeah, he was here.
Wow.
He was an American.
Wow.
And the guy just disappeared with the money, didn't respond,
Yeah. That's crazy.
and we're like, shit in our pants. What are we going to do? Like we're like, how do we deal with this? And the client's going, you need to figure this out, right? This is on you. It's your contract, it's not mine, right?
Mhm.
Rightly so,
Mm.
right? And so you got to be able to be in a position to solve that problem. How do you solve it, right?
Yeah.
So what I did was I got on a plane and I flew to Poland. I found the manufacturer. I went to his office. I found out how much money he'd been paid, if any, which he'd been paid some money by this guy, but not all of what he was owed. We figured out what his contract value was. We reverse engineered how to get around the contract with him and get into contract with the manufacturer and get the product out of Poland
Yeah.
with complicated legal, lawyers we had to hire in Poland, and transferring languages and figuring out how to get the product out. And we were able to unblock the problem and get that product here, and it didn't, have too much of an impact. We lost a little bit of money, which we took the burden of for the client, but it wasn't too much. But having the wherewithal to be able to figure that out and go to Poland and unblock that problem, that's the kind of, mentality you need to have, I think, to be able to understand that you will have problems like this that you can't control.
Yeah.
You can't control someone just doing that.
So what happened to the guy?
We sued him.
Yeah.
And we won. That's what happened.
I'm glad you won, but God, what a headache to go through.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's totally true, right? I mean, we say this often, like on our show, and sometimes we say it to clients as well, but it's also can be a scary thought. It's like you're actually hiring the architect and the contractor. You're hiring them for many reasons, but maybe fundamentally you're hiring them to problem solve stuff for you.
Yeah.
And problems that they haven't solved before. So like it's a certain amount of faith in that you have in that individual that they're going to help you solve problems that arise that they have not done before.
Yeah.
It's not, again, it goes back to, I think, maybe the idea that folks think how houses or even custom houses and high-end houses are simpler.
Yeah.
So why can't you just repeat it? It's like, because every time something happens. And that's, like you said, the real value, one of the values of like the team you've hired is proven when you hit the first obstacle.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's not a big one.
That's what sorts the men from the boys, so to speak.
100%. And I'm sure you've had this too. I had clients in the past who, when the project is done, they have to kind of pull us aside in a, more private conversation. And they say, there are many things about this process I enjoyed and how it turned out. But the thing that stood out to me was when we had that problem, which again, didn't come from us, it came from a sub, actually, to your point. And we were just super stressed about it. And you helped us think through it. how do we legally navigate this? How do we verbally communicate? How do we communicate to them to get the most out of everything, not just to piss everyone off, right? Point fingers. And how do we make sure so it doesn't impact budget, schedule, scope, or to minimum degree, and make sure the quality's there? And we had one client that were like, this stood out the most for me. He's like, I wanted to write that in your review, but I figured maybe not because I didn't want to highlight like a hiccup. But he's like, that was a thing where I'm like, yeah, these guys are. I can trust them.
Yeah.
They're going to be with me no matter what. I'm like, that's what it takes. That's what it takes to do these projects. You got to have as a professional, thick skin, endurance, positivity, optimism, all these things you got to have.
Yeah. No, definitely.
And now a little break for our show sponsors.
This episode is brought to you by Chaos. They make award-winning design and visualization tools, and they're really pushing the boundaries with AI. Now, AI is shaking up the architecture and design world, and Chaos is taking a responsible approach. Their tools are built to help architects, designers, and visualization specialists to work faster and explore more ideas without replacing creativity. Basically, Chaos wants AI to make your imagination stronger, not take over. So you get to design with more freedom, create stunning visuals, and stay in control of your work. If you want to see what that looks like, tap the Chaos link in our show notes.
Dear architects, design leaders, and founders redefining the industry, if you want to shape not only buildings, but the business behind them, this is your moment. Future London Academy's Executive MBA takes you inside the boardrooms of Pentagram, Uber, Zaha Hadid Architects, and Google, where you'll master finance, strategy, and operations from the people who already excel at them. Study along peers transforming the industry worldwide and do it all in just 9 intensive weeks over 1 year between London and California. The program is award-winning, transformative, and crafted for design and architecture leaders with 15 or more years of experience. If you're ready to grow your impact, apply now by tapping the Future London Academy link in our show notes. Say goodbye to design-unfriendly spreadsheets. Programma, built by designers for designers, provides an integrated suite of tools for every phase of your project. From mood boards to advanced specification tools to project management. Seamlessly integrated, easily shareable, and always current, Programma reduces redundancy and minimizes costly errors. Share your work in the format that works for you, be it PDF spec sheets or online branded client dashboards with always up-to-date specification details. Join interior design movers and shakers and start for free by clicking the Programma link in our show notes. Experience the difference with Programma, software built for interior design workflows. So for you guys though, give us a sense of scale of your business. Like how many projects do you typically have going at one time? How many people are working with you? Do you do just houses?
Yeah, no, we don't do just houses. We do hotels, high-end retail. We do high-end restaurants. Yeah, we actually just finished Noma. I think I told you about that before.
Yeah, that's right. There's been some news around.
Yeah, there's been some not so good news around the chef, that's for sure. But ultimately, like what I try to tell them is, hey man, like any publicity is good publicity. You certainly got a lot of publicity around Noma, around what happened with that, which I'm not going to get into that part of the conversation because, like, at the end of the day, like. I'm very supportive of Noma as well, I'll say. I'm very supportive of Noma.
How did it turn out in the end?
I think everyone's gone a bit soft, to be honest.
I remember we had met up fairly recently and you guys were in the process of it and you were telling me of how it was going. Like, now this is good on you guys for like even trying to tackle this and then tackling with success. So how did it all work out?
Well, they opened on time.
Yeah.
Right? We opened it on time. Like we finished it, with the skin of our teeth. Like we were like fucking working all night for days on end to get it done and get it open. It felt like a production, right? It felt like a movie set production. That's what it felt like because we just didn't stop. We just worked. Like we were like setting like mirror tiles, like 24 hours before the opening. We were like in there tinkering around. But we got it done, right? We got it done. We got it clean. We got it open. They were good to go. Like we were, and when I say opening, there was a pre-opening, right? And we were done for the pre-opening, right? So there was friends and family, and then the official opening. So we were done, right? We were done for friends and family.
Wow.
We were done for friends and family. Wow. We were done what we were meant to be done. So And they was a great team, man. They had a great team. Rockefeller was the architect. Ken Falk was the interior designer, who's a great interior designer, very interesting guy.
Yeah.
And they were very collaborative with us. They were very collaborative. They helped us solve problems on the daily. And ultimately, I think there's an infectious environment that gets created when you have so many people on site at one time when nobody wants to leave.
Yeah. Yeah.
And everybody becomes afraid that they're the one letting the other person down.
Yeah.
And the subs feel that way too.
Yeah.
And when you create that environment, it's the best.
Yeah.
It's so good. It's the best. And it's really hard to do.
Is that difficult to I think I know the answer to this, but like, how do you create that sense of synergy when the project deadline and parameters are not so crazy? Like, is it possible to create that kind of commitment and synergy for a project where, people are working normal hours?
Yeah.
It's not mental, or does the craziness of the schedule, is that what like creates the that kind of vibe?
Well, like, to quote Elon Musk, right? He's like set unrealistic expectations of schedule to drive, real productivity.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is true. Creating a feeling of urgency is always something that we want to do regardless, right? It's like just always make it feel urgent and make the subs make it feel like it's urgent, like urgency at all times to get something done, because you have to create that feeling, like whether that just be a subcontractor that didn't show up one day that you expecting him to be there, and then you're like, what the hell happened today, dude?
Yeah.
You were going to be here.
Yeah.
You weren't here. We need you here tomorrow. We got to get this done, right? We have to have this mentality all the time with subs.
Also, because for you guys and folks who are not in the professions don't realize this, one day that's missed has potentially a ripple effect that's much bigger than that one day.
Yeah.
Because it slows down the next trade and the next trade.
Yeah.
And it's just kind
Well,
of
it's flow, right? It's flow. I
Mhm.
always like to say that like a really good job site has continuation of flow, and the biggest thing that impacts schedule is the gaps between trades, right? Like the time between scheduling one trade and the next. It's like, oh, I mean, just classic example, right? Like one project we've been trying to start the swimming pool for a while, but we didn't have a permit. We had to pull a permit for the house builder. Well, pool goes in for permit. We get the permit. Well, I've got the permit, right? Sweet, pool guy. Like, let's start on Monday.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I'm not available for 2 weeks. Blah blah blah, whatever, right? But we've been telling him the permit's coming. Make sure you're ready. Get ready. Get ready. Get ready.
Yeah.
Right? And then he's like, well, I'm not available for 2 weeks because I'm finishing up this other job. And we're like, no, we need you now. Well, I can't, like, what are you going to do? You're going to change pool subcontractors that you've just negotiated this thing? You're going to wait.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to wait
Yeah.
for a week or two between certain trades. And those, I mean, look, in this particular case, it's not going to affect the critical path. The house is a 16,000 square foot house. It does not make a difference to the critical path. But there's just one point. The point is sometimes the gaps between trades are what affects the schedule the most. And I think that keeping the flow and really scheduling people on a just-in-time basis is like what the project manager should concentrate on the most, right? So that the superintendent doesn't have to do that, and he can concentrate on just building who's on site right now, what are we building right now, right? Like that's what he's doing, whereas the project manager is really get these guys lined up so that we know that the dates that they need to be there are actually real dates,
Yeah. And, for large houses or complex houses, you need those different layers of folks because it's a different headspace to be in, like to be a superintendent versus a project manager. And there's just a lot to wrestle. Do you, do you find, actually, no, I have another question, but more about yourself. It's like, so you kind of, were brought up in the trades, but being good at doing the work versus being good at being a general contractor, those are different things. It's also, I think, different from being good as a CEO or, whatever the
Mm-hmm.
titles of the founder of a
Mm-hmm.
company that's, leading all these different people across different projects
Mm-hmm.
and spearheading the company, talking to clients, talking to,
Mm-hmm.
like, did you know from years and years ago that you were going to be very successful and very good at that top position? Because I think it's a different skill set, again, from being a good framer or even being a good small-time GC.
No, I mean, I don't think so. When you
Because you seem natural at it.
start a business, well, when I first started my business, I was 28, I think. And at that point, like, there wasn't as much, I mean, maybe there was, or I wasn't reading the right books or looking, there wasn't as much information about, I wasn't thinking as much about the difference between working on the business and in the business, right? Which is what you're basically describing. Um, and the reality is, when you start a business, the difference is big between, one employee and 20 employees. There's a massive difference in the shift of what you're doing just by the nature of how many employees you have. So your evolution of how you're acting and working changes based on how the business is developing and adding people, right? You can't, when you're 1-2 people, you're doing everything and there's no avoiding it.
Yeah.
You can't fucking delegate to anybody, right? You can't delegate to somebody that doesn't exist, right? So then once you get to a place that you're a bit bigger and you start to figure out, well, what does that delegation look like and how can I do it? And then it's about task management, right? It becomes, okay, we've got these tasks. Which ones make sense for me to do? Which ones don't? How do I delegate that? Can I trust that person to do that? Nobody's ever going to do those tasks as good as you will. You need to understand that it's always going to be 80% of what you would do, and that's okay. You're okay with it. But that task, I probably wouldn't have got to it for 3-4 more days because I've got all these other tasks that are more important. At least he started it straight away.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, so then it becomes task delegations so that things are getting started. And then you can go, okay, well, now I might need only spend 10% of the time I would have spent just checking it.
Right, to get it to like 95%.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So that evolution of becoming a business owner and how to operate a business is just something that I think that you learn. And then you start exploring it, right? And then because you're like, oh, well, how do I do this better? So then you start reading about it and looking for information about it and going like, what am I doing wrong? And you hit these roadblocks and you get to this stage where you like feel like the company's grown, but you're in the space of doing it's still doing a bunch of the work. And then you go, oh, I just got all this work and I'm managing all this great work, but I'm now not getting any new work because I'm managing all of this work. So what do I need to do to not manage the work and spend more time getting new work, right? This becomes the problem.
Yeah.
Right? And then
there's a whole new universe of knowledge to be learned.
Yeah, exactly. And, at a certain point you realize that, I think the thing that I've realized as well is sales is so important.
So yeah,
sales. There's no business without sales.
No, correct.
Business doesn't exist without sales, right? And you realize that when you get a bunch of work, and you start managing it, and then you forget about, oh shit, I need to get new work, right? Like you start realizing that, and then you start to come to the realization that you need to spend more time with the sales process and the funnel and all the things that you're doing. Because you've become more established. So, it's then acquiring clients, nurturing those clients, but from a distance, right? The conversations that you're having become about what your team could be doing better in collaboration with the client to address their comments. How can we get people inside of my organization supporting you more on what they're doing as opposed to me doing it?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like you can't start to steer those conversations in that way that's about people, and you're having conversations about people with your clients to be more effective in the management of what you're doing, I think.
Yeah.
That's you have to do that because you can't be involved in every project when you're starting to move to a scale position of like, we typically, have sort of 6 or 7 to 10 projects at a time, but we might start moving to a place that we have 20.
Yeah.
And I'm okay. And if I'm going to be okay with that, how do I change?
Do you want to get to that point? Or is it like, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen?
I think so. I mean, I think we want to grow. I think we want to grow. And I think that I want to spend more time with personal branding and more time with education around what we do.
Mm-hmm.
With both, I see myself doing more education with both clients as well as other contractors. I see myself bridging into more coaching
Interesting.
for other contractors and doing more stuff like that online. But also, for me, it's like, well, I can't do that. Well, if I'm gonna do that, I better be really fucking good.
It's true.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, fair.
So in order to do that, if I'm gonna go and teach a bunch of other contractors how to scale the kind of business that I've been able to scale, then I better make sure my SOPs are super dialed in. So what I'm working on is making sure my SOPs and what I'm doing is super dialed in. So then I can go and say, look, here's my SOPs and how I operate. You can take this and do the same thing. And I think that is also a really complimentary thing for clients, because if they're seeing this guy's showing everybody else how to do it, then that's only another reason that why they might want to work with us. But it has to evolve. The way that I'm interacting with clients and projects has to evolve. It has to change. It can't be the same as it was. 2 employees to 10 to 20 to 50 has to change. We want to grow, and we want to do more. Ultimately, like, my ultimate goal is to build a legacy around building some amazing projects.
My life is like alarms every half an hour telling me to do stuff, which I hit snooze.
Yeah.
Building a legacy.
Building a legacy of projects that are like, I just want to build cool shit, man. Do you know what I mean? Like, I want to build cool, interesting projects that we can be proud of, that stand the test of time, that are going to be on this earth beyond the years that I'm here, that like is something that I can be proud of, that was kind of complicated and tricky to build. It doesn't necessarily have to be the most expensive thing in the world. Like, expensive doesn't necessarily mean cool.
Yeah.
Right? You mean?
For sure.
It could be some funky, cool bohemian thing that I'm just like, sweet, or like, let's go to Burning Man and build a fucking art car or something interesting, right? Like, I it doesn't have to necessarily be the most high end in the world. Although I like to build high end stuff. Like, don't get me wrong, but I'm just saying,
the
it doesn't
high end
necessarily
stuff
have to be that.
Yeah, I'm totally the same wavelength. It just happens to be, of course, that the high end stuff, there's more money, so there's more room to have things be done a certain way.
Yeah.
It's tougher on a tighter budget. Are there things though? So when you were a smaller operation, you were more hands on and wearing more hats, right? Let's say, are there things from that time, like tasks or responsibilities or things you could do at that time that you miss because you don't do them now? Like, do you miss, I don't know, the carpentry of it or something else?
Yeah, I mean, I tend to want to be the project manager, right? Like, I like getting involved in the nitty gritties of projects, like on site with the clients and whiteboarding stuff out, figuring out what we're going to do and where we need to spend time and what's next, right? Like, and sometimes like that can be a problem because like I just ransack project meetings. Like, the other project managers like should just be running on their own, and the clients like loves it,
Right.
but now they want all the time.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's the tricky bit, right?
Yeah.
It's like almost like you're doing too much, you're getting too involved.
Yeah.
And so it's trying to find that balance of like, bringing value, but also being inspirational and a good leader and inspiring, right, others to be able to do it on their own and giving them
Like opportunities.
yeah, just giving them the breathing room, right? You don't want to just micromanaging. Is something I really tried to work on not doing, But you find mistakes and stuff, and you want to fix them.
Yeah.
Like you see these. Sometimes I see work product. I'm looking at them, going, dude, like, what did you do here? And I'm just gonna redo it. And then I have to get on the phone with them and show them
Right.
what they did wrong
Yeah.
and how to fix it, right? But that's a distraction, right? So now, for me, the layering that I'm doing now is more of those people that are at that, at my higher level, that are able to do that instead of me, right? Like, so that means it just comes down to getting good people inside of your organization, right? Like that really are better than you at what you do, right? And finding those people and realizing that you're going to have to pay really good money to get them, and they're going to have to be understanding of a vision that's bigger than just you, of the company and where you want to take it. Right. Like the vision is the most important thing. If they don't see the vision and don't see what you're trying to create, and it's not just about you, it's about something bigger than that, like that they can get behind and they can feel like they have real ownership in that, then they're going to leave.
You're right. Right. Is it difficult in your industry to find good people? Like, is it
100%.
How do you
so fucking hard. Oh my God. I always say we get 1 in 3. I'll hire 1 in 3, and 2 of them will be shit, and 1 of them will be all right, right? Like, so it's like hire slow, fire fast, right? That's what they say.
Yeah.
But it is tough, right? It is tough to find good people. And when you do find someone good, you're like, okay,
do not leave.
Yeah, hold on to it, because you see it straight away early, right? Like, and so, good superintendent is critical, because everything happens with the superintendent, right? Like, I mean, you just can't build effectively without a good superintendent running the job site. But then, the rest of it, is super important on the project management side and the buyout side, because it bleeds other problems if you don't buy the job out correctly,
Yeah.
So
let me ask, what would be like an ideal project for you? And maybe I guess the question could be interpreted as like, what is your dream project? That's one way of thinking about it. But more like, what are the quality? And I don't mean dream project. Like, what makes a project function well in your mind that is an ideal of how it goes? Does it have to do with the people? Does it have to do with the budget? Is it the site? Is it the style of the house? Is it something else?
Well, I think any one of those things could be influencing a project being, right for something that you want to be involved with. There's some things that I think are more important than others, but if you're going to say, what's my ideal project, you'd be selfish and say, I want all of those things, right?
Yeah.
You'd say, I want all of those things.
Yeah.
Like, I want the best site. I want the best project, like the most high-end project, like the coolest architecture, right? The best team,
right?
Like the best architect that's the most collaborative, and the interior design is really cool, and no one's got an ego.
No
right?
ego. That's
no ego,
that's a good one.
and a client that's like super involved but doesn't make any changes, right? Like that, like is just like super collaborative, like and like there for you when you need decisions, but like and doesn't delay decisions, makes decisions super quickly,
right?
But then doesn't change their mind after that, right? Like, and like you've got a friend relationship with the client where you feel like you're like your friends, you can tell them more, like you can be open with them, like that. It's a very like collaborative, open, fun conversation. This is like an ideal client. And I think often when they're, you know that they're going to be a repeat client as well. Like you can tell that they're going to do more. They're going to find a way to work with you again on something because they love the process. They love the process. They're like, they understand that the finished product is just a finished product, and yeah, we might live there and enjoy that, great, and it's amazing. But I really just love the process. I'm building another one, right? And let's do this again.
Yeah,
because they actually enjoy the process more than the end result. They like designing and getting involved with you, right? I think these are the best clients. They like designing, they like construction, they like being collaborative. But sometimes, you can make an argument that it's better to be a developer and not have a client. So you can go at your own speed and you can make your own decisions and you can build.
Yeah.
But then you kind of come across budget, right?
Yeah.
Because like if you've got a client that just has an endless budget and they just want to spend money and they want to do really cool stuff that makes no financial sense whatsoever, but it's going to be epically cool.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
And you can't necessarily always do that on a spec project. You can't necessarily always do that on a development project,
Yeah.
but you get some benefits of being able to go at your own speed and you'll be able to make your own decisions and being able to be a bit more open. Because sometimes, there's certain client meetings where I'm always like, fuck, this feels really tense. This particular client just creates some tension in the room. Maybe they do it intentionally. I don't know. Maybe they just like have an ego and they're a billionaire and they just like make everyone feel super on edge, or they don't want to say the wrong thing. You know what I mean? And like, I don't like that. I hate that.
It's weird.
I
It's
hate
weird.
it. I much prefer to be like, oh, we can just talk about whatever. And as developers, I feel like we can do that a little bit more. Where it's just like,
straight to the
what I mean?
point.
Okay, I guess maybe at that point I'm the client and everybody else in the room's feeling really nervous, but I don't know it because I'm the client, right? I don't know what's happening, right? So, but I like being the client. It's fun.
I agree with those pros and cons for sure. I mean, realistically, for clients who are doing a custom house and they want to do something really, really cool, the whole idea of like ROI of the property, like that's out the window. At some point pretty quickly in the amount of money you're spending, that's not part of the math equation. If you're trying to approach the house as a spec house because you are a developer or you're a client thinking that you want to play developer, it's like a completely different, it's a different budget. I mean, like people, the margins are sometimes pretty tight on spec houses and tighter than people realize. And
they are.
But with that, if there isn't a client involved, there's a lot of freedom to go so much faster, right? And just quick phone calls, decisions made, boom, done, go forward. We tell clients, and when we're talking to new clients, they always ask, well, how long does it take to go through your services? But when can we start construction?
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, it depends on this working relationship. I can only tell you what's happened in the past. And it's for a ground up house, 10 to 12 months. And then we start construction. And they're like, what? I'm like, yeah. I said, let me put it this way. If we were doing the same size house, same site, same program, but there was no client and it was just us and the contractor, our stuff would be done in a third of the time. But when I'm working with you in a positive way, we have to show you stuff. So there's extra time and effort in that presentation that we wouldn't do if it was just for ourselves.
Yeah.
Frankly, like half of the effort in the presentation, we wouldn't put into the presentation because there wouldn't be a presentation.
No.
We'd just be doing stuff for ourselves. Then we show it to you. We have like a 2-hour, 3-hour meeting. Takes you half a week or more to make a final decision, really. Then we have a couple of revisions based on what you're talking about. So now we're talking about, of 5 weeks, of 6 weeks of time or whatever to arrive at a certain point. When in that point that we could do, 2 weeks internally and not that's it. We just move on to the next thing.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, okay. I'm like, yeah, it's not. And I'd be curious if
you're the problem.
Yeah. I'd be curious if you see it this way too. I'm like, look, the schedule at some level is going to be what it's going to be in the design it really comes down to who you are as a client, as an individual, and how you're going to go with this.
Yeah.
And you've never done this before, potentially, so we don't know how you're going to be. You say you're going to be hands-off, you might not be. You say you're going to be very hands-on, you might be the opposite. You might be like, I don't have time for this. I'm going to be less hands-on than I thought. Fine. But all of that really, compresses or elongates that schedule.
Yeah.
And no one knows. And in the end, sort of like it was always going to be what it's going to be. Like clients sometimes totally understandably change their mind about something that was approved. That's natural, man. And it's like, but it's almost like in order for them to arrive at a decision they're confident about, they needed to have gone through those revisions. Otherwise, they would never have known. So the way I see it sort of like philosophically is, again, it was always going to be what it was going to be.
Right.
And you have there's some amount of comfort, I think, for us at least, that's within there. But yeah, it's fundamentally different spec houses versus custom.
Yeah, no, it
Absolutely.
is. Yeah, having done both and continuing to do both, I enjoy both. But for us, like as a business,
Mm,
um, and when we talk about just kind of making money, which ultimately we want to make money. We need to make money. We feed our families. I mean, we're not just doing it for money, but we're doing it, for the legacy. But if you talk about money, you kind of got a difference between pots at the end of the rainbow and cash flow, right? So, clients for us are cash flow because we get to bill our fee based on the percentage of work that's in the ground.
yeah.
As a developer, we fucking cash pour for a extended period of time, and then we get a little paycheck at the end of it. So it's like kind of having both go at the same time, I think
Yeah.
for me is like, is nice. Um, so I want to continue to do, more spec developments, and, some end user, but it's tough right now to find good deals at the moment. It's
Yeah.
tough.
Yeah. Yeah.
We've struggled to find stuff that pencils, really, really well. I think ULA's really fucked a lot of stuff up.
There was talk about it being,
Got rid of,
yeah,
I saw an
repealed or
article
whatever,
recently, they're saying,
but
but who knows?
everyone's wishful that would go. It's a
Yeah.
hefty
Yeah.
chunk that
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
disappears. And again, the margins are tighter than most people think.
Mm.
I mean, I agree. Having that balance of the two different types of projects is a really nice one. And I found also, for the architecture side, it's like, how do I put this? It's very easy when you have a group of architects together for them all to just whine and bitch about clients. And a lot of their complaints, I'm like, yeah, I get it. But also, I think if in that hypothetical body of architects, all those architects had gone and done their own project as a spec house, their complaining would be a lot less, especially around budget. Because now if you're doing a spec house, like it's you. You understand the consequences of like doing this crazy cool thing and what it means, for the bottom line.
Yeah.
And unless you go through that, it's really easy to just complain. Well, why don't they spend the money? They have all the money in the world. Why don't they spend all
Right.
the
Right.
money? It's
Right.
like, well, that's up to them.
Yeah.
It's up to them. And also
Yeah.
maybe if they are concerned with the
Yeah.
ROI because they're only going to be there for a short period of time or
Mm-hmm.
whatever, like that's a real concern. And
Yeah.
sometimes to be self-critical of the industry, I find that as a group, architects they don't have enough, I don't know, empathy or understanding. I'm like, yeah, because like we become desensitized to these
Sure.
numbers, It's like, this is a lot of money.
Yeah.
If you're doing it for yourself, then it's like, oh, we
Start
have to
to
be,
realize. Yeah.
yeah, it's like, yeah, you're pinching pennies now, right? Well,
Yeah.
this is what the client's been saying to you,
Sure.
you know?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, I think you've got two different things conflicting with each other in budget and aesthetics, and an architect or interior designer always wants to produce the best product, and sometimes that means that you got to spend more to get what they're looking for. I think for us as builders, our job is to try to find ways to achieve the same aesthetic at a lower cost, right? If possible,
yeah.
Suggest ways to be able to reduce costs, but still ultimately get it to look or feel
Hmm.
the same,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so that is, I think, as well, it also means that there's a responsibility for builders to understand design.
Interesting.
Because if you don't understand design, you don't understand, like, you have some kind of aesthetic understanding, like, as a designer in a way,
Mm.
like, are you not well positioned
Mm.
to value engineer?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Do
I
you
can
know what I
see that.
mean? Because like
Yeah.
otherwise, it's just gonna.
You're proposing
It's
stuff
gonna
that just doesn't
propose
make sense.
and everyone's just like, "That's just a bad. We're not going to do that. We're not going to do that, Dan. Like, what? That's a sucky idea. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
As opposed to something where it's like, okay, I get that. I see what your thought pattern is there, and how to achieve that. Right? Like, like, I don't know, like just understanding the overall goal and collaborating with somebody on the design side, I think is it takes a certain type of person to understand that as a builder. I think, like, I don't know, for example, like
Mhm.
we have a client that just bought a house that we built and sold for 17 million. That's sold, by the way. Hutton, did I tell you it closed?
The one we had lunch at?
Yeah,
Oh,
closed. Yeah,
congrats, man.
yeah,
That's
closed.
huge.
Yeah, so just closed, which is
Whew.
good, for 17 million.
Jeez.
And the new owner's cool dude, like proper hillbilly kind of guy.
What?
I mean, I wouldn't necessarily describe him as a hillbilly, but very like just cool.
Yeah.
Like
Okay.
just a cool, down to earth, cool guy. His wife's super cool as well. And they wanted to like add this coffee station. And then their interior designer came over and, we just collaborated and we figured out like what did they want to do and how would we modify the cabinetry and how would we do it in a way that was efficient,
Mm-hmm.
cost effective, but also served the aesthetic needs of what they wanted.
Yeah.
Without like just like tearing everything apart to achieve
Yeah.
this, right?
Yeah.
Like, and that was like that's just one small example of like
Yeah.
those kinds of collaborations that I think is
I
important.
I love that. And honestly, I think I don't know, more and more these days, maybe because of the fires that occurred last year, but I think being economical or efficient is a word that's less controversial, maybe more efficient in the way we do things is always a good goal. Like I
Yeah.
don't, I think even if the client is an ultra wealthy, high net worth individual, I don't like the idea of burning money just because
Yeah.
it's there. Like that
Yeah.
doesn't make sense to me just
Yeah.
as a person,
Yeah.
like we shouldn't be doing that. If we can
Yeah.
find ways to build and be more efficient and maintain the quality or sometimes even enhance the quality, then why not, Um, I think it's a big part of it. It goes back to like the power of pre-con, right? Having these conversations
Mm-hmm.
earlier with everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
I like your point though about part of the value of the contractor is them having a design lens or design kind of insights or design thinking because it also shows to me therefore that that contractor cares about the quality of the
Yeah.
design and what they're executing.
Yeah.
We've definitely had projects before, and I'm blanking on a specific examples where we have a GC and they are and actually I tell clients this too, like, a contractor who can build stuff at high quality, that's not the only list of criteria to decide whether or not they're the right fit for the project or that they're a good contractor. There's many other things on their list of criteria, and one of them is like, do they work well with other people, especially architects and designers?
Yeah.
If
A
they
lot of them don't.
if they don't, but they can build at a high quality, I'm like, that's not a good GC then. I've had clients, they're a great GC, they can build super high quality, but they like working with architects. That's not a good GC then. If you're a client who's going to work with,
Yeah.
spend a lot of money on architect, that's not a good, how is that a good GC if they
Yeah.
don't play well on a team with the other essential team members? That doesn't
Yeah.
make any sense to me. So anyway, we've had experiences like that where, the GC will propose stuff that, lowers the cost. But to your point, I'm like, what the fuck, bro? Like,
Yeah.
and sometimes if it's during a meeting with the client, which is the most stressful thing for an architect, because now the client's like, oh, I'm saving money. And I'm okay with that, like aesthetic change. And of course, the entire design team is like, at this point, we've been on the project for like 18 months. This thing that we're talking about has been brainstormed in our office and has been for the project for 18 months. We know it should be in there for design reasons. And now it quickly just goes away because of an impulse kind of decision conversation and a solution proposed by a contractor who didn't bother to really have care about the design. They're just thinking about making it easier for them or lowering the costs. And that's not enough, right? You need to be thinking about all aspects, including design.
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel what you're saying. For sure. It's a big, like for us, it's like when we find a good general contractor like you guys, it is such a weight off our shoulders.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like we just, we know this is going to go well. We know it's good people. It's just, it's just so relaxing.
Yeah.
Compared to always being nervous, like, okay, am I going to get a phone call, tomorrow, this afternoon, the next day from some problem that's not really a problem.
Yeah.
You're constantly on that edge.
Yeah.
It's not a good place to be at, for 3 years.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So like, I think that, it kind of just reiterates the point of pre-construction and how important it is, right?
Yeah, we have gotten to a point in our office where we don't do a project without it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
I think all architects should be like that,
I would
Like,
agree. I would
they
agree.
really should. It only helps them.
Yeah.
But also there's a way it can be done where it doesn't add any money to the project,
Yeah.
right?
So expand on that for.
It becomes completely cost neutral. And that's the way we try to do it. We actually go, we're going to actually do it so it costs the project less than it would have, which essentially means we decide to lose money
Mm-hmm.
to get our clients to do it
Mm-hmm.
so that they get the benefit of it. We get the benefit of it too.
Yeah.
But we essentially lose money up front with the hopes that it's going to make it that much more efficient, that one, the client's going to be so much more happy with the way the construction goes forward, but two, we're going to be able to build way quicker. Three, we're going to be more efficient, and that means four, ultimately we're going to make more money and the client's going to save more money.
Yeah.
Why does that happen? Because we build faster.
Yeah.
The faster we build, the more compressed our fee is.
Yeah.
The quicker we get our money out, the quicker we get to move on to the next one, the quicker we get something that's amazing, a great portfolio piece, right? That we're happy with, they're happy with, they get to move in. So
And
how do we do that?
a lot less stress and headache, which is a
Yeah.
huge one.
Yeah. So how do we do that, right? Like, I mean, I think a lot of contractors do something similar, but we tend to charge a fee up front for our services in pre-construction. We then give back a portion of, if not all of that fee
Mm,
in exchange for being the one lucky enough to actually build the house.
right.
But what we say to our clients is, we're going to give you a roadmap that allows you to build this house with anybody,
Interesting.
right? The information we're going to give you, you could take to any contractor and you could build with them. It doesn't have to be us. But by the time we're done, you're not going to want to work with anybody else. Trust me.
Yeah.
Because you're going to see such value in what we do. But
Yeah.
even if you fired us and just went to somebody else, you would have everything you needed to be able to execute.
Yeah.
Right? What do I mean by that? You're going to have a full procurement schedule showing everything that you need to buy, the quantities of it you need to buy, where you're going to purchase it from, and how much it's going to cost,
Mm-hmm.
which is essentially, a mix of some direct procurement that we're going to let the client procure direct without fee,
Mm.
and certain things that we're going to buy for them, which is a fair mix. A schedule that's like really detailed, laying out both submittals, procurement, execution for the actual construction build, a detailed scope of work for every single trade, a finalized construction contract that you could use with us or anybody else that is like weeded out and you're comfortable with, your lawyers are comfortable with, everything is super dialed in, and a subcontract agreement that mirrors that ties those two things together perfectly, that can be used for every single contract that you've seen and is fully transparent. And every single trade scope of work has been written, bid, leveled, and selected for the subcontractor that you're going to work with, down to the epoxy in the garage. Every single trade is done.
Yeah.
Every single trade is done. Every single scope of work is written. Every single trade is bid before you even started construction. You have cost locking on as much as you possibly can.
Mm-hmm.
You've got certain subcontractors already on board early for integration of key things like windows and doors, cabinetry, other key things that you're going to need, structural steel, right? Like, and those shop drawings are done and engineered as far as they can. I mean, obviously, like it also depends on, that's got to coincide with the status of the design and the status of the permitting process. There is such a thing as doing something too early.
Yes.
So you've got to be careful about how you do what you do, but it should be able to be in a place that, like, now when you start construction, you've got a roadmap of everything that you need to do, that all these I mean, really what I like to do is have it so that all the subcontract agreements are executed by the subcontractors that we want to work with before we start construction, but I haven't signed them yet.
I see.
They've signed.
I see.
but I haven't signed.
Yeah.
And then we decide when we want to sign. All I got to do is sign. It's done.
Right.
Right. We know we got deposit invoices. We've got insurances already on file. We've got W-9s. We've got everything ready to go that like is plug and play. We're not fucking around. We can move at a speed that's way, way faster. And then, you know, when we start construction, now the project manager is spending all of his time working on, you know, just-in-time delivery and supporting his superintendent and scheduling trades at, you know, the right time and figuring out details in construction that maybe were not necessarily 100% worked out that we've found as the process evolved, right? Like that weren't able to be foreseen as RFIs that we issued in pre-con, which ultimately there will be some things, right? There's, you know, it should be minimized at that point if we did the pre-construction right. And not only that, in pre-construction, full constructability reviews. Full constructability review, multiple estimates along the way. On the development side, when we're working with developers, like we just got brought on board now with a developer, they know we're developers, right? And they know we know, you know, what to do as developers, right? So the first thing we did with them is we built the pro forma for them. We built the pro forma. That incorporated what we thought it was going to cost per square foot to build, all of the soft costs associated with the project, property taxes, holding costs. Everything was into a development budget, and we knew what the exit needed to look like, and we backed into cost per square foot to say this is where this still makes sense if we build here. And then we said, okay, now let's estimate the schematic design or the design development. And then we said, well, there's a gap now between the price of the plans and the price in the pro forma. How do we bridge the gap to get us back to the number that we need to be at? And how do we work through and manage the scope creep as schematic design development,
scope creep,
and construction documents? And then how do we feed every single trade with validated subcontractor numbers to be able to build us to a finished estimate that actually is like rigid and ties into our estimate? Because we're doing these estimates in-house with our own estimating team. And then we're going out to market to test them. Right? And then we're looking at which key trade packages it makes sense to get on board for early engagement, right? Same thing with commercial, right? Like whether it be a facade system or a louver system or some manufacturer that we just know is the sweet spot for this project. Like let's just like bring them in and integrate them into the drawings up front, right? You do that all the time, I'm sure. But if you do it right, this can be a really effective process. I think there's probably a lot of people and contractors that really don't understand how to do pre-con right.
Yes, pre-con, you know, like on paper is a great idea, but it can be executed in a lot of different ways. And the same thing for the architects. So we do it the way that we just do what makes sense, right? But sometimes architects, I've learned, bring on on board a GC for pre-con, and their method of pre-con is to basically send them a set of drawings, maybe just twice during design, and say, "Give me an estimate," and that's it.
That's it.
To me, that's not pre-con.
No,
pre-con is me as us working with the contractor on an as-needed basis, but throughout design for phone calls, constructability, like there's like all the stuff you mentioned, which is, I love what you described because it highlights the complexity and the comprehensive approach that you take. That's our field of vision as well. I want that because it's all those small things, right, that have to line up, and all of that should be considered. Maybe not tackled, you know, at right now, but considered and then woven together, and that's how we do pre-con. So it's yes, of course, getting raw estimates, ROMs from contractors during pre-con, the contractor rather, is the big thing especially from a client standpoint, but it's so much more than that. And so if we were to just use a contractor to get like 1 or 2 ROMs during design, that's not enough.
It's not.
That's not nearly enough. You know,
there's no value in that. Is there?
I want a lot more than that, and I love how you described how you conclude pre-con with this kind of roadmap of the project to go forward. I think that's a tremendous amount of value given to the client, even if they don't use you guys. I mean,
Exactly.
it's a win-win, honestly,
Yeah.
in my view. That's how I really, really see
100%.
it.
Like it should be, essentially you're just bringing forward money that they would have ordinarily spent too late.
Too late, and then spend more money because of that.
And spend
Yeah.
more money because of the mistakes fact associated with it being too late, and just doing it earlier.
Yeah.
There's money they would have spent, but it doesn't. For some reason, doesn't always feel like that to client, and there's a nervousness that they have about doing it, and so that's just education.
Yeah.
Right? You have to teach them
Yeah.
the benefits of it. And I think that bridges into a lot of what I'm seeing right now in the Palisades is this
Yeah.
like real nervousness about what to do, and like not knowing, and like who's trying to fuck me over, and where am I going? But the one thing I am seeing, which I think is encouraging, is the amount of permit submissions and permits being pulled is increasing
Yeah.
significantly on a month by month basis, and we're starting to see much more activity out there. And it's logarithmic for me. I think when people were nervous to jump in, and when a few people jump in, there'll be more people jump in, and we're starting to see a lot more people, want to have conversations with us, and then asking us for, who do they think we should be working with on the architecture side, and like they want to, understand our process, and we're getting a lot more a situation where we're able to bring ourselves on board
Early.
as the first person that's being brought
Yeah.
on board, and then help them, really act more like an owner's rep, right?
Yeah.
Which is my experience and background anyway, right?
Yeah.
But then it's becoming, well, it's really an owner's rep, pre-construction builder.
Yeah.
Right? Like there is a fiduciary.
Yeah, that's even a broader lens, the owner rep lens, the legit ones, because there are a lot of
Because
proposers, but I
and
think
I
that's
think
a
from a
critical.
developer's standpoint, that's why we have that experience, right?
Yeah,
So we
yeah,
know
exactly.
we understand
Exactly.
soft costs.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
direct costs and all the other costs. Like a builder's not necessarily looking at those things the way
Yeah.
that we would.
The same thing for architects. It's pretty common for architects to just do like the architecture, and leave out, this holistic picture, even leave out the interiors, like we were saying before. We don't take that approach. We're also very cognizant of what we don't know, right? But when clients approach us and they give us a budget, one of my first questions is, okay, is that your construction cost budget? Your construction budget, or your like all in project cost budget, less, whatever you own the land or whatever. And they're like, oh, that's the total project budget. Okay, that's very different than the construction cost budget. Then we will give them, to your point, a preliminary breakdown of like, okay, here's all the different people you're going to need based on the quality of house you're trying to aim for, right? Like lighting designer may be in there, may not be in there, depending on their budget and what they're trying to do. Here's what I have seen based on comps, what their fee is going to be like. So therefore, roughly speaking, this is what your soft cost is going to be like. And we find, I'm sure you've seen this as well, clients are like, oh man, this is so helpful. Like no one has helped me think through all of these things.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, we're happy to do this within our knowledge that we have, because if we don't help you and you don't find someone to help you with that, the project won't be a success.
Yeah, 100%. I love it when architects do that as well, because it's so helpful for them having a better understanding of overall budget and where they're going to be, and that considering all of these other things that, that when they take on a project.
And especially
otherwise
for
they're just pissed off.
Yeah, I know. Especially for rebuilds in the Palisades. So like we have 3, probably going to start another 2 soon, and then hopefully more and more and more, where, some of the folks have tight budgets because insurance was not great, right?
Of course.
And so the stakes are higher. And so we have to help them think about these things as best as we can. And they have to also have more assurances than, let's say, a normal project under normal conditions. And so I think some of these things that we're talking about no longer becomes much more critical in their view, and understandably so. So it's been, the Palisades stuff for us has been an interesting process. We've really grown to love it. It's challenging for sure. Working with clients it's a different beast, but
because I think at the end of the day, some of them, not all of them, but some of them, don't want to be there, right? Like they don't necessarily, they're not necessarily interested in the process of designing and building their own house, so that but
Yeah, they didn't choose to do
forced
this.
to do forced
Yeah,
to do it,
yeah,
you know. So then it's like, okay, like how can we make them understand this can be really fun,
yeah.
right? Like you can get some life enjoyment out of this, like, and look at the positives of it, and actually, you know, it can be fun and or you know lucrative in a way, right? If it's structured the right way, like, you know, what's the opportunity here for you as a
Mm-hmm.
client to do something that maybe is, you know, going to put you in a better position than just selling the lot, so to speak,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But there's also a massive amount of people buying lots. So
Yep.
there's a whole bunch of new clients that are willing to spend some money, that do love the design process, that are appearing
Yeah,
on these lots that are being sold,
yeah.
right? Which is you know, a whole new set of people and clients that want to build. I mean, there's a massive amount of work there.
A lot of work, and there's going to be a lot. It's the Palisades and the
But I think it's
Altadena.
been taking a while, right?
It's
It seems it's
it
like it
is.
took. It's really only now. Like I was expecting this time last year for it to be more like it's starting to be this time this year. I
Oh,
think.
really? Yeah,
I mean, I thought it just would have moved a little quicker than it has.
yeah,
It's taken time, and it's
yeah.
still. But I feel like you're starting to see a little momentum right now. Is what I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think, a lot of the folks who took the path of hiring a legit design and architecture team, again, it takes for a full custom house, which not all of the projects being built are that, but it takes 8 to 12 months to do it. So that's why now we're starting to see more permits being
Sure.
submitted and
Sure.
whatever. There's action. I think there's gonna be a lot of vacant lots for many, many years to come.
Sure.
Many, many years to come.
Sure. Sure.
I just hope that we are collectively as the building professionals able to contribute in a way to help ensure that what gets built there is of a certain quality and a
Yeah.
certain standard, right?
Yeah. There's a
Yeah.
lot of like.
There's a lot of sketchy things going on. And
Yeah.
so for us, it's, frankly, internally as an office, we had at earlier days, a lot of conversations about like, well, what can we do to help out? Because when we do high-end custom houses, our fee is a certain price point. That doesn't make sense for some of these people. And it's not cool that they're in this position.
Yeah.
And this might sound a bit, whatever, but I know how we operate. I know what we have to deliver. And I know that if they work with us, we're going to get them something that's a high level of service that they probably won't get if they go with some random person who's going to charge, a lot less. So we made the decision, okay, we're just going to like slash fees for fire rebuilds of people who lost their houses.
Which I think is really noble. We're the same way.
Yeah.
Like if we can find ways to do it at a reduced price to help people, we want to be able to do that. Like no one's in this business to lose money, but also just having the mentality, if I can help some people, I will.
Yeah.
I think is really, really good. And at the end of the day, as a business, you have to look at it a little bit more as a volume deal, right? Like it's like, okay, well, yeah, we're going to reduce our fee, but we're probably going to do, a few more of these, right? Like,
Yeah.
and so there is an opportunity there,
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
So it's finding that blend of saying it's a good opportunity, but how do I help people?
Yeah.
And like, how do I do something that's completely fair and reasonable?
Yeah.
That's going to be attractive, and I can help as many people as possible. I think,
Yeah.
right? Like,
I also think it kind of some of these projects that we're doing. There's a little bit of similarity to like a commercial project or even a spec house, in the sense that so when you do commercial work, anybody when commercial work is done and spec houses, there's a very clear agenda, and like with commercial work, it's a business to business relationship. And so there's no confusion about the schedule and the scope and the budget. It's like, this is what we're doing and we go.
Yeah.
There's not this faffing about like,
Yeah.
well, I don't know about this shade of white.
Yeah.
No, we're going. Like
Yeah.
we have to be done by this date.
Yeah.
And some of those constraints make the projects a lot easier compared to like highly custom house where everyone's like hyper involved, right? And we're seeing a little bit of that in the fire rebuilds with the tight budgets, because it's like the budgets and the insurance you have is dictating the parameters. We do not have the schedule or the money to venture off into land where we're going to explore all this crazy stuff. And there's a certain amount of controlledness to the
Yeah.
process, therefore, which also in turn helps us say, okay, we can cut our fee by a massive amount because we know we have these guardrails that are firm and they're in place and we have to adhere to them. And we're going to look out for the client and tell you, like, I know you want that, doesn't fit. Let's not get distracted
Yeah.
by things that are unrealistic.
Yeah.
So,
Cool.
so yeah.
Well, Dave, I appreciate you coming on the show, man.
Likewise, this was a duo
Dude,
podcast.
This is a good one.
Yeah.
This is a really good one. And that is it, guys, for another episode of High End Fellas. Catch us on the next one. We are out.
Thanks, everyone, for listening to this week's episode. If you want to support the show, you can do so by leaving a review of us in the Apple Podcast app. You can also find us on YouTube and Spotify, and we have a hotline, which is 213-222-6950. So if you have questions, topics, or suggestions for guests, then feel free to text us through there or find us on Instagram, and our handle is Second Studio Pod, and our website is also secondstudiopod.com. I appreciate you guys listening and more fun stuff to come. Talk soon. Bye.